Hello, everyone, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to come and speak with you about a topic that I happen to be very passionate about, and that's the condition called neonatal abstinence syndrome. Think back just for a few minutes to one of the most happiest days of your life, the birth of your baby. You've just brought into this world a beautiful, vulnerable, and innocent little angel. You're told that the baby's first feeding is due, but instead of giving it breast milk or formula, the doctors have just told you that your baby's been diagnosed with neonatal abstinence syndrome, and instead of formula or breast milk, they're going to have to give it a bottle of drugs. Neonatal abstinence syndrome is defined by the U.S. Library of Medicine as a group of problems that occur in a newborn who is exposed to addictive, illegal, or prescription drugs while in the mother's womb. What happens is that when a mom is pregnant and she starts taking drugs, whether it's prescribed or illicit, as she takes the drugs pass through her placenta, which is the organ that connects the baby to her womb. And so as she's taking drugs, guess what? The baby is getting drugs too. So over time, over her pregnancy, the more she takes drugs, the more the baby is getting drugs. When she becomes addicted, guess what? The baby becomes addicted. So she gives birth eventually to a baby who's addicted to drugs. Dr. Stephen Patrick, who practices neonatal and perinatal medicine at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, did an extensive study that was published in the Journal of the American Medical Association in May of this year. And what he did is he looked at the number of newborns over a 10-year period, the number of newborns who were born in the U.S. addicted to drugs. He started his study in the year 2000, and at that point, 1.2 infants per 1,000 hospital births per year. That was the number of babies being born addicted to drugs. 10 years later, in 2009, that number tripled, 3.4 per 1,000 births per year. That's about 13 newborns that are born in the U.S. every year addicted to drugs, which, to put it into perspective, that's one baby born per hour in the U.S. addicted to drugs. Dr. Patrick also looked at the same time in the same study, the rate of mothers who were abusing drugs, whether it was prescription or illicit. In 2000, it was 1.19 women per 1,000 hospital births. At the end of this study, look at this, it more than quadrupled the number of mothers who are pregnant and using, whether it's taking prescription drugs or illicit drugs. There was another study published by ACOG, that's the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, in May of 2012, that looked at the kinds of drugs these moms were abusing. Now, this list focuses on a lot of opiates, but this list is not even inclusive. During his study, the kinds of drugs that these moms were abusing, look at this: codeine, fentanyl, morphine, opium, methadone, oxycodone. Again, the list goes on and on and on. Crack cocaine, heroin, marijuana, and you know what? You could even add alcohol to this list. Now, during the study, the report goes on to say that once physical dependence to these drugs happens, what ends up happening is, as I said earlier, you end up delivering a baby who is addicted to drugs, and then what happens? They go through withdrawals. And that's where the horrific stories start coming. When you deliver a baby who is going through withdrawals because of the drugs that their mother consumed. The signs and symptoms. Neo Reviews, which is a publication of the American Academy of Pediatrics, also did a study that looked at the impact it has on these babies. And basically they said that a baby who is born addicted to drugs, it negatively impacts their central nervous system, autonomic nervous system, and their gastrointestinal system. And what happens to these babies when they're born, their central nervous system, the signs and symptoms: irritability, restlessness, tremors, high-pitched cry. I talked to a few nurses in the NICU at Women's and Children's Hospital in Lafayette, and they said they don't even have to be in the unit. If they hear it's a distinctive cry, that they know that that cry is a baby that's addicted to drugs. They know the cry. It's a high-pitched cry, hyperflexia. That's like tremors. They have tremors. They yawn a lot. They don't sleep well, and they have seizures. Autonomic nervous system, excessive sweating. They have fever. Mottling, that's spotches. Topicnia, and nasal congestion and sneezing. Gastrointestinal system, excessive sucking, poor weight gain, poor feeding, vomiting, diarrhea, and their suck-swallow is not coordinating, which probably justifies why they can't feed well. So all of this is what happens to a baby, the condition that they're in. In the study I mentioned earlier that was published by Dr. Patrick, he indicated that babies born with withdrawals are often of low birth weight and at a higher rate of death than any other infants. To keep those babies diagnosed who are born addicted to drugs, to be able to treat them, oftentimes what they end up having to do is give these babies methadone. They have to give them the drug, to just like a drug addict, to try to wean them off. So basically, you know, the image I showed you earlier, the bottle of drugs, that's real. They have to actually give these babies, these infants, methadone to try to slowly wean them off, not only to wean them off, but to decrease the pain, because these babies are born in a lot of pain from the drug addiction. Now, you know, regardless of whether you're a parent, whether you've had a baby, or what your personal beliefs are as it relates to taking prescription or illicit drugs, this has to be disturbing. To know that an innocent, vulnerable, precious baby is born addicted to drugs because of the irresponsible choices that their mothers made, it has to be disturbing. It has to be disturbing. So I'm asking all of you today to join me in writing our state legislators to encourage them to enact a bill that would bring criminal charges against any mother who delivers a baby addicted to drugs. As I was looking for information to support some of this data, I came across a very interesting website, something I'd like to share with you all. This was the Saudi Neonatology Society website, and they have a declaration that they've produced. It's called Declaration of the Newborn Rights. And this paragraph is what really stuck to me and what I thought really speaks to what I'm trying to say, and that is the newborn is a person with specific rights which it cannot demand itself due to its physical and mental immaturity. These rights impose a series of obligations and responsibilities on society which the legislative and executive institutions of all countries must enforce. It is up to us as a society to advocate for these infants, because as I said, there are too many babies that are being born to mothers who make irresponsible choices while they're pregnant. I had the opportunity to interview Mary Broussard, who's the Director of Social Services at Women's and Children's Hospital, and she told me that there are no laws on the books right now in our state, in the state of Louisiana, for women who give birth to babies addicted to drugs. She said the most that will happen, the worst thing that will happen is this Child Protective Services may come in and take the baby, and she says, and then it really depends on the severity of the addiction, and it really doesn't happen very often. So there are no advocates for these babies. So again, I'm asking you all to commit to contacting our state legislatures to strongly recommend that they enact a bill that would bring criminal charges against women who deliver babies addicted to drugs. I think the threat of criminal charges, the threat of even maybe jail time, is the only thing that would help us be able to decrease the soaring numbers of babies that are being born addicted to drugs. I have some forms that I'm going to be passing out with the names and contact numbers of all our state legislators. I'm really asking that you all seriously consider joining me in doing this. Thank you for your